So I didn't read everything that was on my June TBR. What's new there? It was very ambitious, but I did read some stuff that wasn't on my TBR. So altogether, I probably read about the same number of books I put on there, but I also didn't read any physical books this month. What is up with that? Welcome to my June wrap up. Welcome back, or if you are new here, welcome. My name is Katrina and I make bookish content here on this channel at least twice a week, as well as book to movie content or movie reviews here at the weekend. So make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss out on future videos. I also have all of my social media links as well as my blog and my Goodreads in the description box, so you can catch up and keep up with my reading in between times, which will be important this month because it's reading rush month and I'm doing a whole load of vlogging. If you missed my July TBR, I will leave it linked up above. Okay, just being honest with you for a second, I feel like my June reading was really like a bit of a letdown. I feel like I read an awful lot of stuff that I was like, it was all right, but it's nothing to write home about. Like, it wasn't anything that I would put down after I'd picked up, or it wasn't anything that I was like, why am I reading this book? But having finished reading a lot of the books and going back and reflecting and filming this video, I'm like, I don't remember a lot of these, or, oh, that was okay, but there was something lacking. And it's just a shame that all the books that came along felt a little bit like that. So hopefully my July reading will be a bit better. But just a disclaimer, a lot of my talking about these books is going to be like, it was meh, it was yeah. So there's a lot to be said for going with authors you know you're going to like, or rereading books you know you're going to like, when you need to have that in your reading life. So as always, I will break this down into ebooks and audiobooks for you this month because I didn't read any physical books, and I think that's okay. I did have a couple of physical books on my TBR, but I ended up doing them mostly on audiobooks. My library came through for me there. So let's crack right on with it. The first ebook that I read in July was In Case You Missed It by Lindsey Kelk, and I have a whole review video coming up for you, which will be right before this one gets published on the 23rd of July. So click that little bell so you get notified of that and you'll hear my thoughts on it. Obviously, I loved it. Sneak preview, you know, it's Lindsey Kelk. How many times do I mention her? At least once in every video on this channel, basically. So there we go. And then an ebook that I buddy read with my friend Hayley. We read Hello Again by Isabelle Broom. Love can be found in the most unlikely places. I loved the travel in this book. Pepper goes off traveling with her elderly friend Josephine, and I really loved the travel. I just didn't love Pepper as a character, and I didn't love her relationship choices. So this was definitely a mixed bag of a book for me. Always love Isabelle Broom's travel writing, the descriptions, you feel like you're going there. Highly recommend her books if you want some escapism. This one just didn't click with me because I didn't click with Pepper, and that's okay. We're not all gonna love everything. Then I read The Bones of Our Fathers by Elin Gregory, which can be found in my queer romance reading vlog, which I will leave linked up here in case you have not seen it yet. Then I read The Never Have I Ever Club by Mary Jane Baker. I read this one for a blog tour, blogs linked in the description box, and this one was a rom-com. Seizing the day has never felt so good. Our main character has broken up with one twin, but his twin brother is her next door neighbor and also her doctor, and obviously we know that there's an attraction there because she was attracted to his brother, so there's obviously a physical attraction. What will happen? This is another one of these where we have some characters who are middle-aged or older, and we have them kind of like, seizing the day and doing things as part of this Never Have I Ever Club. And I am really liking this trend of having older characters having their own adventures and having their own romances in these novels and having that interaction, because, you know, we don't just interact with people our own age on a daily basis. I really like the fact that we've got the older characters appearing more in books. Then the final ebook that I read in the month of June was The Other Passenger by Louise Candlish. Louise Candlish writes amazing thriller novels with a twist of mystery. How much is your life worth ... to someone else? I am going to be posting a full review of this one as well, so stay tuned for that. Highly recommend it though, definitely a 5-star read for me. Louise Candlish, I need to get on and read some more of her back catalogue because I know I'm gonna love it. Okay, that was it. No, sorry, that wasn't the last ebook that I read. I also read The Start of Me and You by Emery Lord, which had not been on my radar, but then I picked up the Map from Me to You in my library, realised it was the second book in a series, and so picked up the first book. I really love this cover. This cover is not the same cover as I had on my ebook, but I really like this cover. I can't stop looking at it. So it was like both of those books. So let's move on to audiobooks. On audiobook, I read The Map from Here to There. That's what it's called. Would have been helpful if I'd just had it. And I picked this out of my library. So I do really love this cover. I think the two go together really nicely, definitely. But they just kind of fell short of the mark for me. And I just, yeah, they were okay, but they're not very memorable. And the second book, Map from Here to There, deals with like long distance relationship, possible issues, deals with some issues that teenagers face every day and not everybody talks about. But I feel like it didn't deal with them well enough, like it didn't go into enough depth. I felt like you could have almost like had another book with one of those other characters. Maybe we do, or we're going to, and it would have been enough to fill another book. And so trying to squeeze everything into this book and only touching lightly rather than going into any depth on any of those issues, I think that was the issue I had with both of these. Yeah, just one of those kind of meh things, as I sort of mentioned at the start a little bit. Okay, on to some other audiobooks that I have physical copies of here to share with you. I also listened to 10 Blind Dates by Ashley Elston. Trust your family to make the holidays even more awkward. This is a YA romance set around Christmas. I had high hopes. It did not meet those high hopes. It was sweet enough, but again, it kind of just didn't go into anything enough for my liking. I didn't really like the main character an awful lot, and so it was a bit of a letdown, but fairly quick read, fairly quick listen. But if you're looking for a Christmas YA romance, no, don't pick up that one. One that I did enjoy, that's a very sort of rare for me right now, non-fiction, is Driving Miss Norma, which is by Tim Bauerschmidt and Raimi Liddell. Tim's mom is diagnosed with cancer and decides she doesn't want to go on the chemo. She doesn't want to have any operations. She doesn't want to go into a hospice. She wants to go out and see the world and tick off her bucket list. And so they get an RV and off they go. And I loved traveling with them and seeing what they see and seeing how they stayed places. And Miss Norma becomes very famous. And I really like this one because it was like a dual narrative between Tim and Raimi. And so we got to hear their different perspectives, because obviously Norma is Tim's mom, Raimi is her daughter-in-law, but is a woman, and so it's like really different hearing their different perspectives. And I like this one because it was non-fiction and it was a very good audio. I highly recommend. This is the large print cover version, which I'm now going to take back to the library. So, you know, if that's your library, it's going to be back in stock. Then another one which again fell slightly short of my expectations a little bit was Best Laid Plans by Cameron Lund, which I heard about via Cameron being on one of our panels at the Social Distance Book Fest, and I'm matching the book cover right here. And this one is falling in love with a high school boy is the single stupidest thing you can do. That's the tagline. There's discussion of like first love and first time having sex and friends, and whether friends should be having sex and whether you should get it out the way so that you can, you know, have a good time with the rest of the people. And again, there was, you know, discussions in here, but it almost didn't go like far enough for me. I would have liked those discussions to have involved the way gender stereotypes come into play here, and the way consent comes into play here, and the way the media pressure comes into play. It was touched on, but it just didn't go far enough. So I enjoyed it, but I didn't love it. It's like a general theme here. One that I read right at the beginning of the month, like so far it almost didn't make it onto my blog post, I almost forgot I'd read it, and this is Beach Read by Emily Henry, which I had as my book of the month. I had it as an early thing, but I just put an early hold on the audiobook as well, and then I got the audiobook, so I listened to it on audio. And this is two writers go off to the beach to write. They both write very different kinds of fiction, and you know, they meet, and it's that trope of like enemies to lovers type of thing, and they decide to write each other's fiction. So it was a sweet story. I definitely recommend this one. I did really enjoy it. Sometimes when it comes to rom-com, US authors don't always do it for me, but I really did enjoy this one, and I think it was interesting having them as writers and seeing a little bit into their world from that point of view. The romance in this one came a little bit late for me, and whilst the trope was obviously, yeah, enemies to lovers, there was a little sense of kind of insta-love and making wrong choices a little bit, so that's what kind of stopped it from being a 5-star read. But I did enjoy it, and I do recommend it. If you've read it, let me know in the comments if you kind of felt the same way. Yeah, definitely better than the last couple of books that I've talked about. And then on to some audiobooks that I probably also downloaded from the library. My library has been amazing at being stocked with new audiobooks and kind of making sure they've got enough copies of things. I feel like I haven't had to wait for anything in the past couple of months, which has been brilliant. This one I did not get from my library. I listened to this one on Scribd, but I had also bought the ebook for my Kindle, and so I listened to The Black Flamingo by Dean Atta, which is a memoir in verse, but there's fictional aspects to it, and I really, really loved this one. This was definitely one of the few kind of big hits for me this month, and it's definitely one of my favorites of the year. I highly recommend it. It's been all over social media since I picked it up, so I'm quite glad to be like an early adopter of this one. I saw Kevin talk about it in one of his reading vlogs and immediately downloaded the Kindle version because it wasn't out in the US yet, so I downloaded it on my UK Kindle, and yeah, I really loved it. I definitely recommend this one. I don't need to say more about it because you'll have seen it all over social media as well. It's fabulous, and just so eloquently, beautifully written, and he narrates the audiobook as well, so it is fabulous. And the audiobook was also recorded in Glasgow, so that gives it like an extra little boost, you know, to be 5.25 stars, you know. And then I listened to, where is it? Is this one that's actually not on here? There it is. I listened to Stargirl by Jerry Spinelli, which I have made a whole book versus movie video talking about, so I will leave that linked up here. It's also linked in my blog post. Then I buddy read It's Not Me, It's You by Mhairi MacFarlane, and I absolutely love Mhairi MacFarlane. She writes UK adult rom-com. She's very, very funny. There's always a lot of like swearing and telling it like it is in her books. This one was a little bit of a miss for me, and I can kind of see, I picked it up a few years ago when it first came out and then put it down again, and I think I can see why I did it, because it just didn't, it wasn't one thing I could put my finger on that I didn't like about it, but it just didn't engage me the way her other books have engaged me. It didn't make me laugh the way her other books have made me laugh, and I thought that the main character was making a lot of bad decisions, and I kind of judged her for that, and that might be what it is, but there was just a certain thing that didn't quite click with me. So it was okay, but I can see why I put it down a few years ago, I think. Then I did a couple of rereads. I reread Love, Simon, or Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda, and Leah on the Offbeat by Becky Albertalli. I have booked a movie video for Love, Simon. I have a review of Leah on the Offbeat. I have a review of Love, Victor. I have a trailer reaction for Love, Victor. There's a whole Becky Albertalli thing going on, so I'll pop it into a playlist and leave it linked up here, because I was reading those books ready to watch Love, Victor, so I was in that Simon verse all ready to go. And then also for reading Love, Creekwood when it came out on the 30th of June. That was actually, it was on my June TBR, but I ended up reading it on the 1st of July, so it's fine. It was very good, so it can't go in my June wrap up, but you will see it in my July wrap up, because as I'm filming this, I have already listened to it and it was fabulous, and I'm thinking about making a whole video talking about it. Let me know if that would be something that you would be interested in. Then I listened to Verona Comics by Jennifer Dugan. This reminded me an awful lot of The Princess and the Fangirl by Ashley Poston, but it wasn't as good as The Princess and the Fangirl by Ashley Poston, so it was okay, but it kind of fell short of my expectations, and because I was getting a lot of vibes of that other novel, that's where it kind of fell short, I think, for me. So it was okay. I listened to it all in one sitting. I don't have an awful lot to say about it. YA romance, nice in its predictability. That's what we'll go with. I'm sorry it's so negative, but I'm like, I had high hopes for a lot of these and I really wanted to love them, but I think I ended up falling back on authors I know can impress me, and that's maybe what happened this month. I don't know. I read Only Mostly Devastated by Sophie Gonzales. This book deals really well with grief, but the rest of the book, again, kind of fell short for me. I'd seen so many people talking about this one and saying how fabulous it was. I'd requested it and let the audiobooks lapse last time, so when I got it again, I was excited to read it, but it was just so-so. It was so-so. Again, kind of YA, contemporary. Like I say, it does deal well with grief, but aside from that, nothing really to write home about. Then I listened to A Taste of Sage by Yaffa Santos, and this one deals with, again, it's kind of an enemies to lovers trope. It's adult romance, and I did enjoy this one. It's not the most memorable thing that I've read this month, but it didn't really kind of fall short of my expectations, because I didn't have a lot of expectations going into this one. And the romance was nice. Again, it came probably a little later than I would have liked. There was some dramatic moments in this book that I wasn't expecting. And there are also recipes in this book, which was nice. So this would have been good for my challenge of read a new recipe for the library summer bingo reading. But yeah, I enjoyed it. If you've read this one, let me know in the comments what you thought of it. It was nice, and I enjoyed it. It made me laugh, and the romance was nice, and there was some shocking bits. Yeah, it was a solid 4-star read. Oh dear. Then I listened to All Boys Aren't Blue by George M. Johnson, which is a memoir manifesto. And yes, it is a memoir manifesto. Once I picked this one up, I couldn't stop listening to it. I listened to the whole thing in one chunk. It was emotional, it was raw, it was honest, it was real, and I highly recommend you all listen to it. I really enjoyed it. It was well written, and I loved what he had to say. And that's that. Then I listened to Something to Talk About by Meryl Wilsner. Again, this was a book I picked up because Meryl Wilsner was on one of our panels for Social Distance Book Fest, and they talked about this book, and then a couple of the other people on the Social Distance Book Fest organisation team had read this book and really shouted it up. It is a romance set in the world of media, and there's an assistant and there's somebody with an element of fame, and so we have things talked about like, you know, the way you are perceived online, and the way sort of paparazzi perceive you and rumours around that. One of the characters is, I think one of the characters is definitely bi. I think the other character is gay, but they might be bi as well. I'm trying to remember now. But it's that thing of assuming when, you know, two people are seen together, if they're gay, they're a couple, which I go into a little bit in that queer romance reading vlog as well. So yeah, I enjoyed this one. It didn't quite meet my expectations for it being a 5-star read, but it was definitely a good read. Yeah. And then one that was definitely a 5-star read for me, and again, it's falling back onto authors I know and authors I know I'm going to enjoy. And this is My Calamity Jane by Cynthia Hand, Brody Ashton and Jodie Meadows. I have a video talking about their last book, which was My Plain Jane. I went to their book event here in Denver and got to meet them, and it was hilarious, so I will leave that linked up above. But this one is obviously a take on the Calamity Jane story. We also have like Wild Bill Hickok and Annie Oakley in there, and it was just fabulous. They put some Chicago references in there. They put some Avengers references in there. It was funny. I felt like I learned a lot. I did a writing project on the Wild West when I was 18 in English, and if I'd have had this book then, and also when I was doing that project, why didn't I write this book? Like, it was fab. Yeah, highly recommend. The audio was fab too, but I am trying to get a hold of the physical book because there's a few things I want to click back to, so I've got it on hold from my library. I'm sure they will come through for me soon. And that is it. So there we have it. There's what I read in the month of June. Let me know in the comments what your favourite book you read this month was. Make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss my next bookish video that lands in your subscription feed. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. I will be back with more videos for you very soon, so I will see you then. Thanks for watching.